We've already heard from Patricia Higaldo, who's the Director of Children and Education here at the BBC, who says children's television is on its knees. Let's get a perspective now from someone making programmes, from Richard Bradley, the executive producer of Horrible Histories, which recently won the BAFTA Special Award. Making Horrible Histories the only children's programme to win the award to date. And Richard has been speaking to our editor for the day, Baroness Benjamin.
As you know, I have huge concerns about the state of children's television. What do you make of my assessment, and what do you think is at stake?
At Christmas time, it feels sad to be talking about this, but I would say in many ways it is. But children's content is not in a crisis, and children have more entertainment at their fingertips than any generation any time in history. They can access a whole world of games and social media and things. The problem is that children's television, which we have long been world leaders in, we've sort of taken our eyes completely off the ball. We've allowed the erosion of it to happen. I think we've probably been a bit complacent. We thought, oh, the wonderful programmes, we thought of you. My phrase, I think, probably would be children's television isn't just for Christmas, because at Christmas we feel everything's all right. There's always one or two marvellous treats. But underneath that, children have been leaving television, linear television, and going elsewhere. And those of us in the community haven't responded, haven't taken grip of it and allowed that to happen. So I think there is a crisis. It's not for want of will. There are wonderful people out there who would love nothing more than to be making great children's content, but there isn't the creative ecology to support it.
And what's at stake?
I think a lot's at stake. If we don't take control in some way or find new ways of finding good children's television, we're within a hair's breadth of there being no children's drama with British kids like our kids on television, but also creating those incredible moments that shape your childhood. I think children's television works in ways that we don't think of immediately, but actually in creating community, shared experiences that people will not only nourish them as youngsters, but then they'll shape their cohort for the rest of their life when they're in their 50s, talking about those moments. And we are in danger of us just saying, well, by the time they turn 5 or 6 and they get control of a device, it's over to an unregulated Wild West where no one is curating what they're watching. The algorithm will be curating what they're watching. Is that what we want? I don't think children want that. We've got to find ways to reach them. And I think the lovely thing about Horrible Histories is we found you can do that. I mean, one of the things we've learned from Horrible Histories is that kids not only love to laugh, but they love to laugh with each other and share the experience of watching something. So, something like the Monarch song in Horrible Histories, which is the list of the kings and queens of England.
I'm William the Conqueror, my enemy stood no chance. They call me the first English king, although I come from France.
Thousands and thousands of children around the country have learnt that song. That appetite for not only for learning, but for sharing that, I think is something we need to find ways to get back.
Tell me, Richard, how do you think public service broadcasters can compete and stand out against the plethora of social media?
So on this, I don't think in some ways they can. You can't force young people to return to something that they've departed from. Generation Alpha has had touchscreens all of their lives and is expecting to be able to get stuff on demand. But I don't think that means you stop creating the content. You have to, I think, migrate the content to where they are, and then you have to make sure that where they're going is a safe place to go.
So do you think YouTube, for instance, should have the kind of responsibility that public service broadcasters have at the moment?
Yes, I think it's baffling why YouTube, where most children are watching it, isn't subject to the same regulation for children as public service broadcasters. But I also think public service broadcasters need to find ways to interact, as they are starting to do, with YouTube and saying, look, come on, it's in our shared interest to get this material, in this content to our children. And if there is a market and the market does sort of come back in that way, then the creative producers will jump in and start to create. I think the problem is we haven't had the conversation, and what you're doing is wonderful because you're raising that conversation and saying it's not simple. But what can we do? Because if we don't have it, all of those wonderful memories. I think your phrase, childhood lasts a lifetime, I really believe that. And I really believe children's television, or at least children's great stories and great shared content, is very much a part of shaping childhood.
Yeah. We need Horrible History back on our screens.
Well, we're trying to spread the magic with Horrible Science. Our kids need, in these joy challenge times, they need as much laughter as they can get.